All right, so lots we're going to talk about this hour, including my comfort break, including George Galloway, including ditching Rishi Sunak, including West Streeting, and your favourite breakfast as well. So we've got lots to discuss. We've been talking about the comments of George Galloway. Let's hear what else he had to say. Let's remind ourselves first about his words about being gay, not being natural. Let's hear about that. Because George Galloway has been making these strange comments to Novara Media. He made comments about the human race no longer existing. He made comments about the sexualisation of children. And he made comments about what makes the ideal family structure. He's entitled to his point of view, and I'm honestly not trying to be hysterical about any of this, because I think it's important that we don't throw around things like homophobia and all of these accusations of homophobia, and because I think that sometimes shuts down debate, but it also should be called out absolutely where it is. So, well, let's hear firstly, let's hear once again, we'll do all three of them again now, but let's hear what makes the ideal family structure in George Galloway's mind.
The human race would no longer exist. If it was normal, then it would be the end of humanity over a couple of generations.
So that's what he had to say about the human race. Why don't we remind ourselves what he had to say about what makes the ideal family structure?
I want my children to be taught that the normal thing in Britain, in society across the world, is a mother, a father, and a family. I want them to be taught that there are gay people in the world and that they must be treated with respect and affection as I treat my own gay friends and colleagues with respect and affection. But I don't want my children to be taught that these things are equal.
And let's remind ourselves of what he had to say about the sexualisation of children.
I don't want my children prematurely sexualised at all. I don't want them taught that some things are normal when their parents don't believe that they're normal. Now, there's lots of things not normal. Doesn't mean you have to hate something that isn't normal. But if my children are taught that there's whatever the current Vogue number is, 76 or 97 or whatever the number of purported genders that exist, I don't want my children taught that.
So, what do you think of that? Do you think that that is homophobia? We talk a lot about intent, don't we, when it comes to things like homophobia, things like racism. If the intent behind your words is not to have prejudice, that you should be, I guess, given some understanding. It's the word normal I have a problem with. It's just one word. He keeps referring to normal. And the problem with the word normal is by saying that something is not normal is an implication that it is abnormal. And I think that's the thing that I most have the problem with. I also have a problem with him talking about the sexualisation of children and the idea that by simply informing children that gay people exist, just the existence is sexualising them. I think that that's absolute nonsense. I also think that it's also he's on very dangerous ground when he talks about, again, the normal family structure. If he were to say, I want my child taught that the usual family structure is a man and a woman, well, that's fine. I don't have a problem with the word usual because it's about the frequency. It's about how often that you would find it. And the usual family structure is a mum and a dad and a child. But by saying it's not normal, the normal family structure, he's sort of saying, well, even single parents, it's sort of this implication of abnormal. That's the issue I have with it. I also think that I'm not entirely sure he actually fully believes it himself, because, of course, he is pandering to a particular voter base that he has, where he has been elected, that probably agree with those views, number one. And number two, I think he's got about 6 children spread across various continents of the world. I mean, is that normal? I wouldn't call it abnormal, but I also wouldn't say that that was usual either. So I would be very, very careful if I were him about casting these sorts of aspersions. OK, let's ask you, Paul Britton, leading criminal defence lawyer. OK, unpleasant or homophobic?
I think, I don't think he's homophobic. I don't think the comments are homophobic. Where do you want to start? Because there's so much in there.
Well, anything. Go on.
So I don't see the link. I don't follow that because he says something is normal, that it must mean that everything else is abnormal. I think to say something is normal is probably what happens more frequently. So over 51% of the people are this, and that then becomes the norm. What I would probably say that what the opposite would be that homosexuality, for example, is a rarity or less frequent or not so common.
But why didn't he use those words?
But I wouldn't. Well, he didn't use abnormal.
No, but I think that he said.
I'm not offended by normal.
He said not normal.
Yeah, I'm not offended by that.
I wouldn't say I'm offended, but I think that there is an implication. I think it's the implication that there's something a bit wrong.
I quite like what he said. All of that. I'm totally fine with all of it. So that's why I don't mind where you start, because we're going to have a good conversation. No, you look surprised.
Yeah, I am surprised by that, because
no.
I don't. I don't like the word normal. It's normal that I don't like. I also I'm
a lover of normal, by the way.
So I think that that's the wrong word to use. I mean, should he be pilloried? Should he lose everything? No, but I think that it's a very deliberate word. He could have used so many other words to say less frequent, the less usual state of affairs, not as often found. But normal, I think, is such a strange word to use. The thing I object to the most is his implication that by telling a child that gay people exist, that's sexualising the child.
I think that's
outrageous.
When his comments about sexualisation were about there being a ridiculous number of genders.
Well, he starts off by talking. Well, let's hear that clip again. So he talks about the sexualisation of children. Let's really drill down as to what this clip actually is.
I don't want my children prematurely sexualized at all. I don't want them taught that some things are normal when their parents don't believe that they're normal. Now, there's lots of things not normal. Doesn't mean you have to hate something that isn't normal. But if my children are taught that there's whatever the current Vogue number is, 76 or 97 or whatever the number of purported genders that exist. I don't want my children taught that.
But he's talking about this, up until that point, he'd been talking about this in the context of talking about gay people and the other things that we'd been talking about. The human race would not exist if it was just gay people, all of this sort of stuff. And so, I don't want my children taught that it's normal.
That there are that many genders.
Yeah, but then he goes on to talk about the genders.
Yeah.
I don't want my children prematurely sexualised.
Well, I mean, sexualised is... the problem with this, without watching the whole clip from beginning to end and actually seeing how the conversation evolves as he goes through it, we're just picking up sections and we're linking them all together. And actually, if I had children, I wouldn't want my children to be sexualised either.
But how would it be sexualising them?
Well, this is the point that he's making. It's. I don't know how he goes on to saying that there's a Vogue number of... Vogue, I think he's just using in the context of it very popular or very trendy to have this many genders. He's never going to be able to avoid the fact that that is a fact, that people do believe that there are that many genders. But I guess and again, guessing without having him here and being able to ask him, he's saying that he doesn't want his children to be taught that they can pick from a catalogue of genders. He wants them to be told that they are boys or they're girls, they're male or they're female.
Okay, but up until that point, again, and he's used the word normal or not normal in the context of gay people as well. So I think it's fair to presume that when he says he doesn't want his children taught about, you know, prematurely sexualised and told something's normal, I think you can throw gay people in with those gender comments as well, firstly, because he's been talking about not normal in that context. But secondly, I'm trying to get to how discussing the existence of... Because, look, people have a different gender identity, whether you like it or not you, anyone likes it.
But he does caveat it with what the parents don't consider to be normal. So this is probably stemming into what is being taught in schools. And
yeah, and it's the Muslim vote. It's the Muslim vote that he is.
I don't know if you can jump
to...
straight to that, because I don't.
No,
think
it is.
I don't think it's just the Muslims.
Well,
I mean,
no, but
we all know that his. That's right. Yeah, and he seems to win in
yes.
constituencies where that's a majority. But I don't think it's right to say it's just the Muslims.
No, but I think that he's going for... I don't think it's just Muslims think like that, but I think it's the Muslim... That's why I said Muslim vote, because it's talking to his constituency when it comes to that.
But he has a broader appeal than that.
Does he?
To Christian, Caucasian families as well, up and down the country.
But I think he's talking to his constituents. But I just want to get back to... OK. Look, I agree that you need to be really careful when it comes to children and when it comes to gender identity and when it comes to a child that is gender non-conforming or a child that is all of those things. I think you need to be really careful when it comes to...
Sexualisation has got to be the wrong word.
Of course it is.
I mean, maybe he means like sex categorisation.
No, he's talking...
Sexualisation, isn't that like makeup and short skirts and bikinis when they're 6 and stuff like that?
He's going to an old trope by saying that quite deliberately, that by describing or by informing a child of the existence of gay people, that it is in some way dirty or the sort of implication of that there being some sort of a paedophilia or something like that, because no gay person I know who is gay in front of a child, as in themselves, is doing so in a sexual way, and I think that is repellent to say that.
Yeah, if that is what he said, then it's abhorrent.
We'll when we come back, but I'm open to you telling me that I'm wrong. I really am. And so when we come back, we'll talk more about this and a couple of the other stories as well, all here on Talk.